may say with absolute candor and sincerity, one of the greatest living thinkers, certainly in my lifetime. And he is Tom Sowell, well known to many of you, should be known to everybody in America. Senior fellow at the Hoover Institution at Stanford. His new book was published yesterday, and it is Charter Schools and Their Enemies. He's the piece in the Wall Street Journal on the subject. Tom, welcome back to my show.
Good being back.
Thank you, sir. Where are you cooped up these days?
Cooped up at home as I usually am. I mean, the pandemic has not made nearly as much difference in my lifestyle as in the lifestyle of most other people.
But you haven't been able to go around doing photography.
Well, I can, but the work has been, has been overwhelming, really, for much of the past 2 years. Partly because I realized how important the book was, not simply as a book, but whether it can let a large number of people understand what the situation is with charter schools and the dangers, as there's been a big political backlash against charter schools, reflected last year in some very strong anti-charter school legislation in California that will make it virtually impossible for charter schools to suspend disruptive students.
You answered, I felt foolish that I had not realized this, but if I didn't realize it, I assume many didn't. I knew the argument given, charter schools, of course they do better because they skim the best students from the general population. And then you had a great answer. I'll let you give the answer.
Well, first of all, charter schools most of them select their students through a lottery.
Yes.
So they know nothing about who is the best student. They don't have their academic records. They don't have any test scores. It's the luck of the draw. Now, there is some element of selectivity in the sense that students who are serious or whose parents are serious will be entered into the lottery. And so the lottery as students may be a notch above in motivation, all right? Well, what they leave out is the crucial point. Most people who enter a lottery do not win. Some fraction win, and the majority of those motivated students remain in the public schools. For example, one year there were 17,000 applicants for 3,000 places in the Success Academy charter school network. The Success Academy took 3,000. 14,000 were left for the traditional public schools. Now, they could have educated those 14,000 just as well as the charter school educated the 3,000. They didn't choose to do so.
Who is your title is "And Their Enemies"? Who are the biggest enemies?
The teachers' unions, the politicians, people who are still fighting the battle for racial integration that started with Brown v. Board, who think that they ought to be deciding where black kids and Hispanic kids go, rather than the parents of those children.
Wait, so the teachers' union, and that's the reason the politicians oppose, because they listen to the teachers' union. So
they don't just listen to them; they take money from them. But for example, last year there were more than 50,000 students in New York City on waiting lists to get into charter schools. Now, if those 50,000 students can get into a charter school with a per pupil allotment of more than $20,000 apiece, we're talking about more than $1 billion a year being transferred out of the traditional public schools and into the charter schools. People who run the traditional public schools try their best to make sure that does not happen, and there are a number of ways, not all of them legal, that they can do that.
So I'll bet a lot of people listening have a vague idea of what a charter school is. So would you define it?
Yes, it's a public school in the sense that the taxpayers pay for it, and there's no tuition or anything. But it's a public school set up by people outside the education establishment, private people who agree to various terms as the condition of having a charter issued that will allow them to receive students from the public school system and to receive the money to educate the students.
Right. So the teachers union will argue, we're shifting, let's say, $1 billion over to charter schools. Who then theoretically loses the $1 billion? You have to hire teachers for charter schools too.
Oh, charter school teachers, most of those are not unionized. And the teachers union represent those particular teachers who are in the traditional public school system. The public school bureaucrats don't like the idea of $1 billion disappearing because they have their bureaucratic empires, and then they're going to have fewer jobs to give out and so forth. But one of the most ridiculous arguments is one that is most often used, namely they're draining money from the public school. They can't drain anything. They can only enroll students who volunteer or whose parents volunteer them. And the question that immediately comes to mind is, did you seriously think that when a child moves from school A to school B, the money to educate him should stay behind in school B? I mean, it's insane when you stop and think about it. But the fact that argument is still effective for some people suggests there are a lot of people out there who are not in the habit of stopping and thinking about it.
Right. But but in reality, money is being drained from unions. That's the teachers union. Is that accurate?
No. It's the money that pays the teachers' salaries and the salaries of a whole army of other people, or perhaps more than is paid to the teachers. But I guess it's to me at least the simplicity of it that is overlooked. That what is happening is the kids go from school A to school B. The money goes from school A to school B. That happens if he's only transferring to a different district in the same city. Right,
but there's again, I just for my clarity, I want to just be very clear for me.
Okay.
They oppose it, the teachers unions, and that's all that matters, because they won't have unionized teachers in charter schools.
That's right.
Okay, what does that mean? That means fewer dues are paid to teachers unions.
Yes, and teachers union dues are measured in the billions nationwide.
No, it's an astonishing thing. All right, so let me ask an overarching question, which I'm sure you've thought about much. In light of the fact that a lot of black parents, like anybody else, care about their children's education, and in light of the fact that the Democrats oppose better education for black children, and Republicans are for it, why blacks overwhelmingly vote Democrat is the question.
Well, the information that's in this book, simple as it may be, is simply not that widely known. I don't know how many parents in Harlem know that the mayor of New York is bitterly opposed to charter schools. It says so in words of one syllable, and it said so all throughout his career. So they may be happy with their charter school or dissatisfied with their traditional public school. Either way. And until they know what is going on. Moreover, not everybody knows how the two kinds of schools are effective or not effective in education. That's one of the reasons I have tables for more than 100 individual schools in New York City, where traditional public schools and charter schools educate kids in the very same building, serving the very same community, so you can get comparable students to make your comparison. But most of this stuff is unknown. It shouldn't be unknown, but it is.
Why is a charter school better?
There are any number of reasons.
All right, wait. Tell me when we come back. I want to remind everybody about the book. It's so important. It's hard to overstate. Charter Schools and Their Enemies. Tom Sowell. It is up at DennisPrager.com. If you've had experience with this, I'm very interested in hearing from you. 1-8-PRAGER-776, 243-7776. Goes under the heading of anything the left touches, it ruins. Public schools is just one example.
The Dennis Prager Show, live from the Relief.
If you could do one thing that changed you forever, would you? How about something extraordinary? A bucket list item packing years of memories into 10 exciting days. Chart a new path by joining Dr. Sebastian Gorka.
Set a clear new vision for yourself this year and join me on the Stand with Israel tour this December 2nd to 11th.
Along with special guest Mike Lindell.
God freed me from these and other addictions and started me on a path to a restored heart. Praise Jesus.
Discover over 40 iconic sites as you encounter the life-changing impact of a journey to the Holy Land. Surrounded by like-minded travelers, picture yourself stepping foot in key locations right out of history. Much more than a vacation, this journey guides you through one of the most politically and spiritually significant places in the world. Explore Jerusalem, Galilee, the Dead Sea region, and so much more. Along the way, Dr. Sebastian Gorka will broadcast live and on-site as you watch and participate.
Reserve your spot today for this incredible journey.
Call today to join Dr. Sebastian Gorka on this life-enriching Israel tour, December 2nd to 11th, 2020. Call 855-565-5519 or book online at standwithisraeltour.com.
Trending now on the Mike Gallagher Show.
According to court papers that were filed yesterday, Joe Biden appears to have personally raised the idea of investigating Michael Flynn for potentially violating the obscure, never-used Logan Act when he talked to the Russian ambassador at the time. These were previously sealed documents. If the media was worth a damn, pardon my language, I'm in a bad mood today. If they were worth a damn, there'd be a big front page story that reveals facts, like this one. The then FBI director, James Comey, acknowledged during a meeting that involved Sally Yates, possibly Susan Rice, that General Flynn's conversation with Sergei Kislyak his conversations, quote, appear legit, according to the federal court filing out of Washington, D.C. that were just revealed. This was revealed in handwritten notes that were prepared by this disgraced ex-FBI agent, Peter Strzok. Flynn's lawyers are referring to this as stunning and exculpatory evidence. But of course, now the government has dropped the case, dropped the charges. But listen to this. This is where it matters. A partially blacked out copy of Peter Strzok's notes is attached to the filing and includes a mention that appears to say, this is scrawled, this is like chicken scratch, but it appears to say VP : Logan Act.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Larry Elder Show.
I've been doing a lot of publicity for the movie Uncle Tom. And I had an interview with the BBC radio. And I've interviewed BBC before, and the same thing happened. After a few things about the movie, I was then asked what I think about race and racism in America.
As the July 4th weekend approaches, and as we drown in anti-American rhetoric, it's a good time to reflect on why we should be so grateful to live in this wonderful country. That's what I do in this week's Prager University video, Why I Love America. See it at PragerU.com, where we teach what isn't taught. Yes, indeed. We approach 3 billion views. PragerU.com. My guest is one of the most important thinkers of my lifetime, Thomas Sowell. And his latest book is Charter Schools and Their Enemies. So where were we at Tom Sowell?
You were asking about the difference between the charter schools and the traditional public schools. The charter schools are public schools, but
right.
And the points of contention. The charter schools have the facts on their side. The other side has the rhetoric. And there are far more people who hear the rhetoric than there are who hear the facts, which is the reason for writing the book in the first place. The rhetoric says, look, when you put them all together nationwide, charter schools and traditional public schools, there's really not much difference. And in a sense, that's true, but it's like many things that are true and totally misleading. The white students plus Asian students are a majority of the students in traditional public schools nationwide. Black students plus Hispanic students are a majority of the students in charter schools nationwide. Now, for years, generations, white students and Asian students have been scoring higher than black students and Hispanic students. Now, when the charter schools come along and close the gap, the people say, well, the charter schools are no better than the others. If they're no better than the others, how come the others had this huge gap for generations on end, and now the charter schools have closed the gap? My book, the data I collect, compares students who are comparable. That is, in more than 100 New York City schools, that there are charter schools and traditional public schools holding classes in the same building. And in almost all the cases, in all the cases in my sample, blacks and Hispanics add up to a majority in both kinds of schools. And so we're now comparing comparable populations in comparable neighborhoods going in the same buildings. And when you do that, you find that on the statewide mathematics test, 10% of the students in the traditional public schools in those buildings pass the math test. And in the charter schools, 68% pass.
Right. So my question, or at least in my mind, was, what do they do better? Since they're also publicly funded, what do they do better?
An excellent question that really I didn't think of in those terms. And one very big difference is this. Traditional public schools are unlike virtually any other institutions I can think of offhand. Every kind of institution, whether it's a sports league, it's a medical facility, a church, automobile dealerships, they have a clientele. And they must attract that clientele and hold that clientele if they want to survive as institutions. That is not true of traditional public schools. Compulsory attendance laws means they are supplied with a clientele regardless of whether they educate them properly or don't. Moreover, public schools don't even compete with each other because each one has a monopoly in some particular territory.
Oh, it's perfectly. I mean, it's so obvious. They don't have to compete in terms of excellence.
That's right, or even competence. Never mind excellence. My goodness,
you're right. That's fair.
I threw those figures out there which show that the kids in the traditional in the charter schools in New York City, which is where I got my sample, passed this math test nearly 7 times as often as the kids in the same building, in the same classes, taking the same test.
Has anyone of the enemies of the charter schools debated you?
No, they have not. I would be surprised if they did.
I would be shocked. I would help sponsor it monetarily.
It sounds like a great idea.
Yeah, of course it's a great idea. But as I tell my listeners all the time, the left doesn't debate, they smear. So
they silence, which is the main thing.
Yeah, well, it's.
I'd be very surprised if my book gets reviewed in places like the New York Times.
No, of course, that's correct.
New York Review of Books. I don't even get criticized.
That's right. That is correct.
90% of all criticism that I receive is from my junior assistant, whose job it is to go through my stuff.
Oh, that's funny. That is funny. Not your wife?
Huh?
No, you don't get any criticism from your wife?
Wives have been known to say a few negative things now and then, shocking as that may be.
Totally. I'm sorry I raised the issue. It's obviously a sensitive one. When I look at the public school, I report regularly about the curricula that they now advance. I'm curious if this has made its way into charter schools. For example, the 1619 rewriting of American history. Is that will be now normative in American public schools? Will that be taught in charter schools? In
California, I suspect it will be. The new legislation last year that I referred to is imposing on charter schools the same bad practices that are in the traditional public schools. See, the idea behind charter schools initially was that they would be freer to experiment since they wouldn't be covered by all the minute regulations that apply to the traditional public schools. And if they came up with things that were successful educationally, then the traditional public schools would have the option of adopting these things. What has happened has been the exact opposite. That when the charter schools come up with something that contributes to their turning out a better educational result, the backlash is to restrict the charter schools and impose the things that are failing in the traditional public schools. For example, the new legislation last year makes it virtually impossible to seriously punish any student who simply disrupts the classes or the schools that they're in. Now, one of the things that charter schools do is have some sense of discipline, so that kids who act out, hit other kids, yell and carry on so the class can't go on, they can be suspended. Now they cannot be under California law.
More with Thomas Sowell. His important book is up at DennisPrager.com.
This is Owen Strand for townhall.com. It was heartwarming to see many of the planet's toughest and best athletes telling their children on social media how much they love them. In short videos, fathers played games with their kids, bear hugged them, and told them jokes, all in a tribute to dads on Father's Day. In a society that does little to encourage fathers, the NBA's efforts did not go unnoticed. Families are the essential building block of society, and fathers are the essential building block of the family. A home led by a father, especially a father with a spiritual focus and strong character, places flourishing within reach. Gender-neutral children do not need gender-neutral parents. Boys and girls need fathers and mothers bound by lifelong commitment. This isn't a prejudicial belief. Downplaying fatherhood sets us all up for disaster. Social media support is great, but we need more. We need a society that celebrates, honors, and ennobles fathers. I'm Owen Strand.
Alliance Defending Freedom, fighting for those whose liberty is being violated.
If you could do one thing that changed you forever, would you? How about something extraordinary? A bucket list item packing years of memories into 10 exciting days. Chart a new path by joining Dr. Sebastian Gorka.
Set a clear new vision for yourself this year and join me on the Stand with Israel tour this December 2nd to 11th.
Along with special guest Mike Lindell.
God freed me from these and other addictions and started me on a path to a restored heart. Praise Jesus.
Discover over 40 iconic sites as you encounter the life-changing impact of a journey to the Holy Land. Surrounded by like-minded travelers, picture yourself stepping foot in key locations right out of history. Much more than a vacation, this journey guides you through one of the most politically and spiritually significant places in the world. Explore Jerusalem, Galilee, the Dead Sea region, and so much more. Along the way, Dr. Sebastian Gorka will broadcast live and on-site as you watch and participate.
Reserve your spot today for this incredible journey.
Call today to join Dr. Sebastian Gorka on this life-enriching Israel tour, December 2nd to 11th, 2020. Call 855-565-5519 or book online at standwithisraeltour.com.
Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
Well, my thing is, Larry, I understand where you're coming from, but I get very disappointed because sometimes it very much seems like you bash black people, and I don't understand that because if you look at the history of America, there's more white men that has done wrong to black men than black men have done wrong to white men.
Corey, do I bash white people?
I haven't heard it.
Really? I've never said anything at all negative about Hillary. Never said anything at all negative about Joe Biden. Never said anything at all negative about the Clintons. Never said anything at all negative about left-wing people on the Democratic side. Never said anything at all negative about Chuck Schumer. Nothing negative about Nancy Pelosi.
You're right. So,
Corey, the people I criticize who are black are lefties. You've never heard me criticize Candace Owens. You never heard me criticize Peter Kirsanow. You never heard me criticize Thomas Sowell, Walter Williams.
But the people that you are naming, in my opinion, they're not too friendly to black people either. Candace Owens is not accepted by most black people.
Well, not accepted and being friendly are two different things. As Corey, you haven't seen you haven't seen my movie Uncle Tom, but when you see it, you'll hear Candace Owens say,
"I'm definitely going to see it. I'm definitely going to see it.
I sure hope so because when you
tonight, I'm definitely going to look at it.
I appreciate it, Corey. And when you see it, pay attention to something that Candace Owens said about you're saying she's not accepted by black people. She says, "I'm an alarm clock. I'm not here to win a popularity contest. I'm here to say, wake up. You're losing. Wake up. And when your alarm clock goes off, you're angry at first, but eventually you get up and do what you have to do."
All right, everybody, Dennis Prager here. Thomas Sowell, one of the leading thinkers of my lifetime, is on. Senior fellow at the Hoover Institution at Stanford, a photographer. By the way, what camera are you using lately?
It's the Nikon D, my goodness, 750. It's been so long since I used it, I'd hesitate.
And why is that? Because of the lockdown?
Partly, but also medical things as well. I was diagnosed with pneumonia on Christmas.
On Christmas?
Yes.
How are you now?
Oh, I'm in good shape now.
Well, good. That is good to hear. I have a number of calls here, which some people just hung up. I'm not sure why. Maybe they thought they wouldn't get on. 1-8-PRAGER-776. I'll take a challenge here from Cannon City, Colorado. Cindy, you're on with Dennis Prager and Thomas Sowell.
Hi, thanks. This is Cindy. Such an honor to talk to both of you.
Thank you.
I have a wonderful sister who is a school teacher, and I always bring up this, conversation with her that she doesn't support charter schools. She teaches in the public school system. And she says that charter schools are not required to take developmentally delayed children or challenged children, and that's why they always perform so well, and I don't know how to answer her.
Good one. Thank you.
Well, if you get a copy of my book, or you can get one in the library if you don't want to buy it, just look in the back of it, and among the many tables in the appendix is one on children with special needs. That argument has been made by a lot of people. You really can't explain a difference of one school passing the math test at nearly 7 times the rate of the others because they have different proportions of special disabled students with disabilities. But the charter schools do, in fact, have students with disabilities. Nationwide, according to Professor Diane Ravitch of NYU, who is a big opponent of charter schools, 11% of the children in traditional public schools nationwide have special disabilities, and only 8% in the charter schools. Now, you're not going to say that a 3 percentage point difference between the two kinds of schools can explain away why one school can pass the math test.
Right.
The other thing that I looked up, although this is not in this edition of the book, I looked up the Success Academy schools, of which there were 13 in my sample, and the percentage of special needs students ranged in those schools from 4% to 34%. So, there's one school that has less than the national average. There's one that has 3 times the national average. And the one that has 3 times the national average of students with disabilities has this, more than three quarters of all their students not only reach proficiency, they reach the level above proficiency. So it really, that is an extremely weak argument, although it's one that is out there, and in most cases, there's nobody to answer them.
That's right, nobody to answer it. That's why I really urge people, for the sake of education in America, to buy the book. Not just get it, read it obviously, but I don't even know who takes books out of libraries anymore. I was very disturbed to learn, and I should have known this, I guess, but I didn't know it, to learn from you last segment that charter schools can be told what to teach just as public schools can. So,
yes, and in California, they have already been mandated to teach what is called sex education. It's really sex indoctrination.
Yes.
And the new legislation, I believe, is included. They're going to be required to and it's not that they are given that as a subject to teach. It is specified what particular material they must use.
Well, in light of that, I'm really confused as to why they do better. If they're told what to teach. Well,
this is a new development.
Oh, really?
Yes. So it's when Jerry Brown was governor, one of the few good things he did was resist the effort of people to force the charter schools to teach and specify sex education. It's one thing to say you must teach a class on sex education and leave it up to you to decide how to do it. No, the government and so they have. I mean, some of these things in the sex education classes, they have a scale, a model of a penis, and all the 11-year-olds are supposed to go up there and put a condom on it, and they'll have there'll be a
all right, hold on a moment, if you would, Tom Sowell. Again, folks, this critical book, Charter Schools and Their Enemies, up at DennisPrager.com, 1-8-PRAGER-776. I'm thinking of how painful some of this is, and then I'm going to tell you about a pain reliever. Unfortunately, it does not relieve existential pain, pedagogical pain, but it does relieve physical pain. ReliefFactor.com, 800-500-8384. 3-week quick start is just $19.95. ReliefFactor.com.
Trending now on The Mike Gallagher Show.
I came back just in time to see that the cure for this virus has been advanced by the New York governor, Andrew Cuomo. He just announced that malls in New York will not be allowed to reopen until they install a special kind of air filtration system that blocks coronavirus particles. Have you heard this? Cuomo said there are HEPA filters, which are high-efficiency particle air filters that can actually filter out the COVID virus, he said. My gosh, why aren't we doing that everywhere? It's that easy. I mean, if that's the solution, we have systems, HEPA filters that block COVID, according to the governor of New York. This is the guy that has saved New York from coronavirus. They're just doing so great, and he's taunting all the other governors right now. He's making fun of Florida and Texas and Arizona. You lost, he said the other day. You lose. You bunch of losers. We got it all figured out here. Well, listen, there's the answer. I'm reading here in the New York Post, Cuomo did not say when the malls would be allowed to reopen with their super duper exciting anti-COVID-19 air filtration systems. One mall industry source told the New York Post, from what we can tell, there's not a single mall in New York or even the country that has these systems in place.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
Activists are demanding that the John Wayne Airport out here in Orange County, California be renamed because of statements John Wayne made in Playboy interview back in 1971 and some other things he said that therefore makes him a bigot. I was just thinking about other people that have made inappropriate statements. Did you know that Harry Truman, the beloved Harry Truman, once referred to Jews as the K word and New York as K-Town, except he didn't say K? Shall we erase everything from him? John F. Kennedy. There's a book called The Dark Side of Camelot, written by Seymour Hersh, who was a reporter with the New York Times, so therefore it must be credible. He referred to
This show is now available on live video streaming on Town Hall TV, as well as our website. If you want to watch the show, not just listen, go to townhall.com and click on the Town Hall TV button.
Okay, everyone. Thomas Sowell, the Thomas Sowell. His first name is The. Thomas Sowell, who is not only one of the great thinkers, well, I'll tell you what area he's deficient, and I've mentioned this on all the books that I've interviewed him on. The titles of his books are not sexy. My favorite was Basic Economics.
I must tell you, Basic Economics has sold more copies than any other book of mine.
I know.
It has been translated into more foreign languages than any other book of mine.
So there you go. I am totally wrong. All right. On the other hand, you could argue if it sold that many with that title, can you imagine what it would have sold?
Yeah, you would go far in politics.
Yes. All right. Don't even start me on that. Thomas Sowell's book is Charter Schools and Their Enemies. So what happened? Charter schools were allowed to teach the way they wanted, but now it's in California, it's imposed that they have to teach basically what public schools do.
Well, they're not in everything, but they've intruded what is called sex education, but what is really pretty gross stuff to be forced on 11-year-old kids. And that is prescribed. It's not, as I say, they don't tell you to teach sex education and let you decide what you're going to teach. they have their program all set up, and that's what you are forced by law to teach. The same thing with what is called ethnic studies, which is apparently, from all that I've heard about it, very much along the lines of a 1619 project at the New York Times.
Yeah.
Which I would be shocked that they got a Pulitzer Prize for it. But there was once a New York Times reporter who got a Pulitzer Prize for denying that there was a famine in the Ukraine.
That's right. Walter Duranty, 1932.
And 6 million people died.
That's right.
In this famine that he claimed didn't exist.
Yes, this is not new, unfortunately. Where is? Oh no, there was a person. It happens so often that the call I want to take hangs up. They give up. Somebody was calling in to say that what's being taught today, at least in her experience, is hatred of white people. Does that resonate?
Yes. That's common.
Common. Wow.
Yeah, in other words, and more generally, the word privilege is used as a substitute for achievement. So anybody who has achieved something will be said to be privileged. And some even apply that to middle-class blacks. That privilege? I mean, the ancestors were brought here as slaves and they're privileged? I mean, what are you talking about? But the idea of achievement is really a deadly idea to those who believe in the social justice vision. Because the argument is that if you're not doing well, then what you lack is somebody else's fault. And that's not necessarily even tied to race. I mentioned in the book in passing that the very same kinds of indoctrination goes on in England, where the underclass is predominantly white, and you get exactly the same kinds of results. That studies in England show they break down all the low-income people into different ethnic groups in England. And which ethnic group do you think does the worst on tests? Native-born white Britons, people who come in from Africa, from the Caribbean, from India, from China, all and are in that same low-income bracket. All do better than whites in the same bracket. The Economist magazine recently pointed out that white students in one of these boroughs score lower than black students in any borough around London.
How does the left explain that in Britain?
They don't. But what the difference is, these people who come in, they may be poor in terms of money and so on, but they have not been subjected to generations-long indoctrination in the idea of grievance.
Right. Believe me, I know. I want to ask you about. I mention this constantly on my show. About 2 million sub-Saharan Africans, that means black Africans, have moved to the United States in the last 50 years.
Uh-huh.
How are they doing?
I don't have the figure on all of them. What I know about Nigerians is they're doing quite well. Haitians, of all people, who are quite poor in Haiti, come here and they prosper.
If I took an anonymous vote among African immigrants of the last 50 years, and Haitians for that matter, and said yes or no, the United States is systemically racist, what do you think the vote would be?
Would be no. There is actually tension between the native-born black people and black immigrants to the United States. And some years ago, someone checked on the blacks at Harvard and some other elite schools, and they found that most of the blacks were not native-born black Americans. They were black immigrants who took up a disproportionate share of the affirmative action places put aside for people who are supposedly the descendants of slaves, which these other people were not.
Yes, that's fascinating. All right, let's see here. Detroit, Yolanda. Hello, Yolanda. You're on with Dennis Prager and Tom Sowell.
Hi, Dennis. Thank you for taking my call.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Mr. Sowell, for your book. I have a daughter, my one and only child, who, thank God, was able to go into charter school from kindergarten K through 12. It was a blessing because I was so concerned about putting her in school. My husband and I couldn't afford a private school, so I was really challenged in finding a public school. So needless to say, long story short, the charter schools were just coming about. This was in 1998. And I went to an informational meeting, and I was sold immediately. One thing that you said is so true. They did not, at that time, try to tell them what they could teach.
Yeah, we'll leave it at that. We'll be back in a moment. Tom Sowell's book, Charter School and Their Enemies.
Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
Who is Joe Biden today?
Oh, well, maybe we should ask Joe Biden that, because I don't even really think he knows. Finally, on the 89th day, they brought him out of the basement. They propped him up. I guess they gave him, like, smelling salts or something to awaken him. And he is back out there, sadly not looking any better for all the time off that he had. But it's actually very scary. The Joe Biden that we see today, Sebastian, is really just a shell of a person, and he is being manipulated at every turn by the very far left radical wing of the Democrat Socialist Marxist Party, which is, that's what they are now. They are not even the Democrat Party of, 30 years ago. They have morphed into this very frightening organization. And when you see what is happening out across this country in these Democrat-run cities and states, you see the chaos and the anarchy, burning down of buildings, looting, just complete, terrorism in many cases. You don't see Joe Biden out there saying, gosh, we shouldn't do that. The only person that is standing up for law and order in this country is Donald Trump. Then you look at the fact that this guy now has Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez as his climate change advisor. The Green New Deal, let's not forget the $93 trillion price tag on that, millions of energy jobs lost overnight. What that would ultimately mean for this country is probably bankruptcy pretty quickly. That, along with the fact that this guy wants open borders, free health care for illegal immigrants, he's getting pushed further and further left. He doesn't know which way is up. And if he, God forbid, ever became president, it would not be Joe Biden running the country. It would be this very far left radical socialist wing of the Democrat Party, and it is absolutely frightening.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Hugh Hewitt Show.
Does the Attorney General group have a grip on how to approach big tech so that they act responsibly in the marketplace?
Yeah, and let me be fair and clear. There are many things that big tech, like all tech, can provide that are helpful to make our lives better, to make our lives easier. And big tech is tech is developing and going down that road, whether it's AI or Internet of Things or autonomous vehicles. And so the trick is to find a balance and to make sure that we hold them accountable, to make sure that they don't exploit personal private data from our citizens and our clients and monetize those in a way that's unconstitutional, that's illegal. But at the same time, not
Don't hang up yet, folks. Thomas Sowell done a massive amount of research on charter schools, and it's in his book, Charter Schools and Their Enemies. Lisa is a teacher in Columbus, Ohio, says charter schools are only marginally better than public. Well, I advocate, but I
don't think passing the math test at nearly 7 times the rate of the public schools is marginally better. It's amazing how much rhetoric there is out there without one speck of facts behind them.
That's why the book is so important. Betsy, quickly in Cleveland. Hi.
Dr. Sowell, one of my greatest wishes is being fulfilled right now. Speaking to you, sir. I want to
wait. What am I? Chopped liver?
No, Dennis, I love you too. But to get to talk to Dr. Sowell,
No,
please.
I'm with you. I'm with you. Go ahead.
And I want to rush because I know there's no time on the clock. First, I want everyone to know that he's 100% correct with regard to the California health education, is which they're calling it, and bullying curriculum. It includes lewd and lascivious information, and it's being shared, Dr. Sowell, beginning in kindergarten, not 11-year-olds. Kindergarten, which is age 5. So I did want to let you know that. I am a consulting psychologist to one charter school here in Cleveland. We have a plethora of charter schools. This one stands alone and has one founder. Sadly, she has chosen to teach black history to the exclusion of white history. And I'm sorry to say this, but the students, who are great kids, it's a middle school and high school only, are being taught to hate white people in what is the word, cooperation with what Black Lives Matter espouses. So I wanted to understand what I might do.
Okay, Tom.
Boy, that unfortunately this is happening. I think just letting the public know the extent to which this is already happening. And there's a backlash, as I've said, across the country against charter schools because there's money involved. One of the things that shocked me in doing the research is how many places there are vacant schools that have been vacant for years, and they will block the charter schools from using them because that means the charter schools can take students from off the waiting list and teach them in these schools. In some places, they have actually demolished the schools to make sure the charter schools can't get them.
Well, again, though, if they're teaching what the public schools are increasingly because of being forced to do so.
No, that battle is still being... In California, that battle has been lost.
Yes, but it's a battle elsewhere.
There's hope.
Tom, we have to speak more often. A belated happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
A big hello to your wife, and just stay well.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you. Charter schools and their enemies. This man is a national treasure, not a term I widely use. Stay tuned. I'm Dennis Prager.
This is Owen Strand for townhall.com. It was heartwarming to see many of the planet's toughest and best athletes telling their children on social media how much they love them. In short videos, fathers played games with their kids, bear hugged them, and told them jokes, all in a tribute to dads on Father's Day. In a society that does little to encourage fathers, the NBA's efforts did not go unnoticed. Families are the essential building block of society, and fathers are the essential building block of the family. A home led by a father, especially a father with a spiritual focus and strong character, places flourishing within reach. Gender-neutral children do not need gender-neutral parents. Boys and girls need fathers and mothers bound by lifelong commitment. This isn't a prejudicial belief. Downplaying fatherhood sets us all up for disaster. Social media support is great, but we need more. We need a society that celebrates, honors, and ennobles fathers. I'm Owen Strand.
Alliance Defending Freedom, fighting for those whose liberty is being violated.
If you could do one thing that changed you forever, would you? How about something extraordinary? A bucket list item packing years of memories into 10 exciting days. Chart a new path by joining Dr. Sebastian Gorka.
Set a clear new vision for yourself this year and join me on the Stand with Israel tour this December 2nd to 11th.
Along with special guest Mike Lindell.
God freed me from these and other addictions and started me on a path to a restored heart. Praise Jesus.
Discover over 40 iconic sites as you encounter the life-changing impact of a journey to the Holy Land. Surrounded by like-minded travelers, picture yourself stepping foot in key locations right out of history. Much more than a vacation, this journey guides you through one of the most politically and spiritually significant places in the world. Explore Jerusalem, Galilee, the Dead Sea region, and so much more. Along the way, Dr. Sebastian Gorka will broadcast live and on-site as you watch and participate.
Reserve your spot today for this incredible journey.
Call today to join Dr. Sebastian Gorka on this life-enriching Israel tour, December 2nd to 11th, 2020. Call 855-565-5519 or book online at standwithisraeltour.com.
Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
Well, my thing is, Larry, I understand where you're coming from, but I get very disappointed because sometimes it very much seems like you bash black people, and I don't understand that because if you look at the history of America, there's more white men that has done wrong to black men than black men have done wrong to white men.
Corey, do I bash white people?
I haven't heard it.
Really? I've never said anything at all negative about Hillary. Never said anything at all negative about Joe Biden. Never said anything at all negative about the Clintons. Never said anything at all negative about left-wing people on the Democratic side. Never said anything at all negative about Chuck Schumer. Nothing negative about Nancy Pelosi.
You're right. So,
Corey, the people I criticize who are black are lefties. You never heard me criticize Candace Owens. You never heard me criticize Peter Kirsanow. You never heard me criticize Thomas Sowell, Walter Williams.
But the people that you are naming, in my opinion, they're not too friendly to black people either. Candace Owens is not accepted by most black people.
Well, not accepted and being friendly are two different things. As Corey, you haven't seen you haven't seen my movie Uncle Tom, but when you see it, you'll hear Candace Owens say,
"I'm definitely going to see it. I'm definitely going to see it."
I sure hope so because when you
tonight, I'm definitely going to look at it.
I appreciate it, Corey. And when you see it, pay attention to something that Candace Owens said about you're saying she's not accepted by black people. She says, "I'm an alarm clock. I'm not here to win a popularity contest. I'm here to say, wake up. You're losing. Wake up." And when your alarm clock goes off, you're angry at first, but eventually you get up and do what you have to do. That was her analogy. I thought it was brilliant. I get that a lot. Well, you're putting down black people. Well, I'm putting down certain black people. I'm putting down Al Sharpton. I'm putting down Jesse Jackson. Putting down Farrakhan.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
So first things first, what is communism? If you've never read Das Kapital, if you've never read the raving rants of Karl Marx, it's okay. In a sentence, communism is a utopian ideology that utilizes the use of force to pitch classes against each other so that the oppressed working class will destroy and vanquish the capitalist class and the bourgeoisie middle class until, quote unquote, everyone is equal and no one has private property and everyone receives according to their needs. That's the idea. In reality, it has never ever been achieved in the 40 countries it has been attempted in, and it has led to the deaths of over 100 million people, with more than 30 million murdered in China alone. Today's version of it isn't the communism of China or the Soviet Union. What we are seeing on the streets of America is something called the new left. Remember that phrase, the new left. I learned it from the incredible autobiography of Andrew Breitbart. Read it. It's called Righteous Indignation.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Hugh Hewitt Show.
I personally believe the media is attempting to overplay the second outbreak in an effort to hurt Donald Trump. The numbers bear me up. Remember, at the height of the pandemic in May, America suffered 2,700 deaths. Yesterday, there were 338 deaths. On Sunday, there were 250. On Friday, there were 506. On Thursday, there were 599. On Wednesday, there were 644. What do you see? The number of deaths are declining in the United States.
Hi, everybody. The male-female hour every Wednesday. I'm Dennis Prager. I think it's the most honest talk about men and women, at least that I know of. If there is more honest talk, I would like you to tell me about it, and I will strive to achieve that level of honesty. I am never bothered by somebody or something doing better than I. I am actually relieved. It is a big burden to think you're doing the best there is. There's nothing better. It wouldn't bring me any satisfaction. I want to be excellent, but the thought that there's nothing better is depressing. Anyway, just a side thought. I'm big on side thoughts because I think a lot. Male-female hour brought to you by, I guess, the Salem Radio Network. Never thought I'd say that. Brought to you by, and nothing really came to mind. So listen to this. Today's subject is more about the female. Usually it's male-female. So she gave me permission to cite who she is. I won't say her name, but it is my trainer. She has been my trainer for 4 years, and I owe her a lot because I truly believe that these workouts, which I can't say I enjoy, have been really, really good for me and my body, my health. She is, I believe, 28 or 29 years old. She got married about 2 years ago. A wonderful guy. I know him well because he was another trainer at this gym, and he has now gone into other work, which pays more money, because they had a child. Which, by the way, just out of the need to tell you about this, we have a video at PragerU about the case for men getting married, and one of the data that this professor brings is that married men make more money than single men, and this is a perfect example. While single, he was fine with the salary of a full-time trainer. But now that he has a family, he feels he needs to make more. Just a perfect example. Anyway, she is very devoted to her profession. She is top-ranked and a nutritionist as well. Had a baby. How long ago did she have a baby? A year and a half ago. And the lockdown has forced her. I had not seen her for 4 months. We finally have resumed until perhaps the Democratic governor decides to close down gyms again. But we have resumed. And so I asked her, so how was the 4 months at home? She said, well, I really loved my baby. And I've really loved being with him a lot more than when I'm working. So I asked the $64,000 question. If you could live on your husband's salary, would you stay home and be a full-time mom, wife, etc., etc.? And she said, yes. I did not know what she would say. But she has been very dedicated to professional success, and she does excellent work in her field. I'm wondering how many women forced to be home with a child or children have made a similar conclusion and fight it even. It goes so against everything they have been indoctrinated with regard to. The idea of being full-time mom or full-time, say, mother and wife, homemaker, oh my God, it's the lowest of the low in the feminist pantheon of jobs that you can do in life. But I wonder how many women, A, because of the lockdown, or B, in general, if told your husband can make what the two of you now make, would you stay home? And obviously, there are part-time things you could do. I mean, it's not 100-0. It's not 85-15 home. Okay. Like she said, she would still, like to work out with a couple of people. I hope I'm one of them. But that's the question. I do believe that in an ideal world, I understand the real world. I even understand my dependence upon some working women who are instrumental to my life. I get it. All generalizations have exceptions, but as a generalization, I think the ideal is a full-time person at home with a full-time worker outside. I fully acknowledge times that it works out 50-50. Well, 50-50 very rarely, actually. But where it works out that both work, both take care of the home, and God bless you if that works. But I do believe that a lot of women were indoctrinated into the belief that full-time at home is for losers. And here is a woman very committed to her work, never would have answered what she answered me, but for the fact that the lockdown forced her to be a full-time mother. So what do you say to that? 1-8-PRAGER 776-877-243-7776. Has the lockdown affected you or anyone you know with regard to full-time motherhood, or perhaps even fatherhood? And in general, what do you think of my generalization that there has been a massive indoctrination that has not worked out well for a lot of women? I think women have been told so many things that run against their nature. Like sexually, they're the same as men. So a hookup mentality, which is intrinsic to men, is one that they could happily live with. And the notion you don't want to you don't want to really get married. It's not that important. Career is, and you don't want children. Bring them into this existentially threatened world by global warming. I just think women's natures have been so messed around with. It's part of the reason that they have the highest records of depression that we have ever recorded among college-age girls. I think it's also why disproportionately, at least from the photos I keep seeing over the last few years, that is young women the angriest at these demonstrations and in greater numbers than men. 1-8-PRAGER-776, the male-female hour.
The Dennis Prager Show, live from the Relief Factor Pain-Free Studio. Trending now on the Larry Elder Show.
Well, my thing is, Larry, I understand where you're coming from, but I get very disappointed because sometimes it very much seems like you bash black people, and I don't understand that because if you look at the history of America, there's more white men that has done wrong to black men than black men have done wrong to white men.
Corey, do I bash white people?
I haven't heard it.
Really? I've never said anything at all negative about Hillary. Never said anything at all negative about Joe Biden. Never said anything at all negative about the Clintons. Never said anything at all negative about left-wing people on the Democratic side. Never said anything at all negative about Chuck Schumer. Nothing negative about Nancy Pelosi.
You're right. So,
Corey, the people I criticize who are black are lefties. You never heard me criticize Candace Owens. You never heard me criticize Peter Kirsanow. You never heard me criticize Thomas Sowell, Walter Williams.
But the people that you are naming, in my opinion, they're not too friendly to black people either. Candace Owens is not accepted by most black people.
Well, not accepted and being friendly are two different things. As Corey, you haven't seen you haven't seen my movie Uncle Tom, but when you see it, you'll hear Candace Owens say,
"I'm definitely going to see it. I'm definitely going to see it.
I sure hope so because when you
tonight, I'm definitely going to look at it.
I appreciate it, Corey. When you see it, pay attention to something that Candace Owens said about you're saying she's not accepted by black people. She says, "I'm an alarm clock. I'm not here to win a popularity contest. I'm here to say, wake up. You're losing. Wake up." And when your alarm clock goes off, you're angry at first, but eventually you get up and do what you have to do. That was her analogy. I thought it was brilliant. I get that a lot. Well, you're putting down black people. Well, I'm putting down certain black people. I'm putting down Al Sharpton. I'm putting down Jesse Jackson. Putting down Farrakhan.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
So first things first, what is communism? If you've never read Das Kapital, if you've never read the raving rants of Karl Marx, it's okay. In a sentence, communism is a utopian ideology that utilizes the use of force to pitch classes against each other so that the oppressed working class will destroy and vanquish the capitalist class and the bourgeoisie middle class until, quote unquote, everyone is equal and no one has private property and everyone receives according to their needs. That's the idea. In reality, it has never ever been achieved in the 40 countries it has been attempted in, and it has led to the deaths of over 100 million people, with more than 30 million murdered in China alone. Today's version of it isn't the communism of China or the Soviet Union. What we are seeing on the streets of America is something called the new left. Remember that phrase, the new left. I learned it from the incredible autobiography of Andrew Breitbart. Read it. It's called Righteous Indignation.
Keep Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Hugh Hewitt Show.
I personally believe the media is attempting to overplay.
Hello, my friends. Dennis Prager here, male, female hour, resuming in a moment. I just want to remind you about PureTalk, which offers you for $20 unlimited text, unlimited talk, and 2 gigabytes of data, $20 a month. I was so skeptical, I actually got a phone, hooked it up to PureTalk, works just as well as my expensive service. In one case, it got through and my service couldn't. PureTalk USA. You can keep your phone, by the way. You don't have to buy a new phone. You can keep your number. It's not like President Obama saying you like your policy, keep your policy. If you like your doctor, you keep your doctor. This is the truth. If you like your phone, keep your phone. If you like your number, keep your number. $20 a month and 50% off your first month with the keyword Dennis Prager by dialing pound 250. That's all you do. Pound 250 and then say Dennis Prager. PureTalk USA. Dennis Prager here. Thank you for being with me. My trainer just spent 4 months with her baby and said to me, ideally, she would stay home now. That, for most women, not all, there's nothing all. But for most women, that is a natural response to life. And it has been knocked out of them by the awful ideas emanating from Betty Friedan and feminism. Yep. Masters in sociology. That's meaningful. Making a home. That's for the pathetic. All right. 1-8-PRAGER-776 is the number. And Michelle in Chicago. Hi there.
Hey, Dennis. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Thank you for taking the call. It's an honor to speak with you.
Thank you again.
But I totally agree with you that I believe that institution college, I am a college graduate, and I felt that my career was top-notch. You know, I needed to have a career, and that's what defined me. But plans changed, and when I met my husband, I had a child later in life, and I have an 8-year-old daughter right now. And so we decided that I was going to stay home, and that has been the best decision I've ever made. And it was a very difficult one at first because I felt that it questioned my worth and who I was of staying home, because that's not what I was supposed to do. I went to college, and so I was supposed to have my career and somehow do both.
When you're at dinner parties and the subject arises, how do you feel?
Now I feel much more at ease. In the beginning, when I first had my daughter, I was very demeaning to myself. Oh, I just stay at home, and I don't do anything, basically. But now I'm much more at ease, saying, I take care of my daughter. I'm a stay-at-home mom.
And let's say you're at a dinner and, what people do just comes out naturally or because somebody's asked. So one woman says, oh, I'm in banking. and another one says, I teach at a college, and you say, well, I'm full-time mom, staying home and taking care of my daughter, making a home. So you are now much more at ease saying that, correct? Is that what I got from? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
my next question is, how do they react?
People just kind of say, "Oh, okay." I mean, they, don't say anything demeaning, or they don't say
How do
anything
you
bad.
think they're reacting?
Sometimes I think they look at it like, maybe questioning or why. Maybe they sometimes, I'll say in my previous life.
I want you to know that I was told, not often, I haven't raised that specific question that often, but there are women who have said, or not said, I've read it, that there are more than a few women who actually sort of envy the women who are staying at home and, won't say it publicly, or think, oh, well, she must be doing financially better than I, that she could afford to do it. So there actually might be a sort of envy in some cases.
I don't feel sometimes the envy. I don't believe it. I some people just look at individual circumstances and then they may just assume, just depending on what the, like in my case, my husband, what he does, and then they say, oh, okay, well, sure, you can afford it, or they think that, or, something like that.
Right. Well, one more. I guess you didn't have a second child, is that correct?
No, my husband is older than I am, and for us, between him and I, one is she's our one and only.
Right.
He was married before.
Oh, does he have children from that marriage?
Yes, he does.
I get it. Well, thank you for calling. You've been a joy.
Oh, thank you so much for speaking with me. I totally appreciate it. Thank you very much, Dennis.
Thank you. Tell me that such a person does not sound impressive. You can't, you see? That's the thing. Andrea, also in Chicago. I wonder if they know each other. Andrea, do you know Michelle?
I do not know Michelle.
Who do I hear in the background?
All my children.
How many of them?
I have 4. I have a 4-year-old, a 3-year-old, a 2-year-old, and an 8-month-old.
You guys are very punctual.
Yes, we are.
All right, so hold on. I want to talk to you. This, if the summary is accurate, this is fascinating because, let's see, she's 30. She has had a very similar experience these last few months of the lockdown. So my subject on the male-female hour is my trainer. 4 months with her baby, now wants to be a full-time mom after desiring career first her whole life.
The Dennis Prager Show, live from the Relief Factor Pain-Free Studio. Trending now on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
I personally believe the media is attempting to overplay the second outbreak in an effort to hurt Donald Trump. The numbers bear me up. Remember, at the height of the pandemic in May, America suffered 2,700 deaths. Yesterday, there were 338 deaths. On Sunday, there were 250. On Friday, there were 506. On Thursday, there were 599. On Wednesday, there were 644. What do you see? The number of deaths are declining in the United States, even as the number of cases skyrocket. Why is that? Doctors are better equipped at treating it. younger people are getting it. So the reopening has slowed down, but it hasn't stopped. And the variant that we have, there's a story on which variant we have, is the one that's gotten more contagious. So the virus is even more contagious than it was 3 months ago, but it's killing fewer people, even as far more people get infected. Why? Because they're younger, stronger, less fragile, better treatment. Meanwhile, China has fast-tracked the coronavirus vaccine based on advanced genetic technology. Its military is using it. I don't know if it's going to work. If it works, we don't know if they'll give it to us. But that is very good news for the world. They also have 3 other candidates ready to begin trial. What does all that mean? That means we've got a lot more cases with a lot more therapies and a lot fewer deaths.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
Show. I now have the privilege of speaking with someone from the Alliance Defending Freedom, ADF, as we call it. David Cortman is a senior counsel with ADF. David, welcome.
Thanks for having me on.
Should we talk about the Supreme Court? We don't want to be legislating from the bench. We've had a lot of that. That's what this seems like to me. In other words, what's the kind of a case that can come up? I mean, the funeral home case that we've talked about on this program where a guy goes on leave. He works at a funeral home. He comes back and says, now I'm a woman and I'm going to dress as a woman. They said, no, this is a very sensitive business and we're dealing with clients that are in tremendous grief. We don't think this is appropriate. Now that person has been justified and will keep his job, although he would probably want me to say her job, at this funeral home. I mean, that's the case that was basically adjudicated, was it not?
It was one of the 3 cases, yes. And what was interesting about it is that we actually argued on behalf of the funeral home that the person's transgender status didn't matter. It was coming to work and saying now, even though you were hired as a man and you agreed to this dress code policy where men wore black suits and women wore black dresses, that no longer would you comply with that. And you wanted to come to work to dress as a woman, be able to use the women's restrooms. And the court said, well, we're not, interestingly enough, we're not going to rule on those issues, the dress code or the restroom, when those really were the issues in question in the case.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Mike Gallagher Show.
Hi, everybody. Dennis Prager here. Male-female hour. And the subject is the phenomenon of my trainer, 28, 29 years old, dedicated to her career her whole life. Now spent 3-4 months with her new baby. And yes, if she were financially able, she and her husband, she would be full-time at home. Okay, so we're back to Andrea in Chicago. Thank you for holding on, Andrea.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, take it away.
So I guess I did the college thing. I got my master's. I was the breadwinner for my family.
By the way, I'm sorry, we don't say masters any longer. Sorry, I got a directive. It suggests slavery, and we do not say masters. Okay, go ahead.
What am I supposed to call it nowadays?
You got your
graduate degree?
Something between bachelor's and doctorate. That's what it's now called.
Okay, well, I did that.
Right.
And so I had a career, and I was making more than my husband, and that was what I thought I was supposed to be striving for. And then we started having kids, and I felt this pull that my job really didn't mean that much to me, and so I transitioned, but I didn't feel like I was allowed to transition totally. So
I'm sorry, we use the word transition only with regard to the transgender.
So I changed. Can I say change?
Yes.
So I changed to teaching. I teach college courses now, so I'm an adjunct professor. And I started doing that 2 days a week because, again, it felt like I shouldn't just be home with my kids. And then, of course, this quarantine happened and school was forced to be online. And I've been home with my kids since March. And it was the best thing that, and I mean, I don't say that insensitively. Like, I understand that this has been so horrible for so many people.
No, of course.
It's
fine. You're only speaking about your situation.
But
So it had the same effect it did on my trainer.
Absolutely. My husband was still going to work, so it was just the kids and me all day, every day, nowhere to go, nothing to do, and we read books, and we were creative, and we snuggled, and we just had the best time. And I really struggle knowing that school is starting soon, and we're going back. I'm already committed for the semester, and I'm dreading it. I thought I loved my students, but I obviously love my kids way more, and it's just been an interesting thing to
it would be. I tell you, you should write this up. I don't know if you have any writing experience. You speak very well, so you should write this in a 750-word essay. What this did to you, and how you struggled, and so on. There's no doubt that you would find a spot on the internet somewhere. So I just think people need to hear this. So thank you. It's a pleasure to talk to you, Andrea.
Yeah, thank you. And I have to thank you, too. I suggest to all my students that go through my classes that they read your happiness book. So I just feel like you should know that there's a generation of students coming through that are hopefully going to read that. So
great. It's very important to me that you told me that. Thank you. In that regard, I will tell you, I once heard or read that an author would trade 100 readers today for one reader 100 years from now. Everything I have written, it's now about 10 books, even my columns, I always hope when I'm writing it that generations from now this will be read. I don't know why they wouldn't. The happiness book is timeless. It may be timeless wrong, but it's timeless. And the same, obviously, with my Bible commentary and anything else I wrote. A lot of young people write to me, give me a book to understand the left or Marxism, and I'll tell you, the book is my book, Still the Best Hope. It's about the left. It's about Islam. It's about America. Still the Best Hope. Ladies and gentlemen, Riduzone is a fascinating product, and I recommend it to your attention. It is the only FDA-accepted product that includes OEA, the naturally occurring molecule that helps you feel full faster, burns stored fat, so it reduces your caloric intake. Riduzone makes it easy to resist the cravings that make it so hard to lose weight. It is exclusively available at Riduzone, RIDUZone.com. If you use the promo code Dennis, you could save up to 65%. That's Riduzone, RIDUZone.com. And the promo code is Dennis.
Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
So first things first, what is communism? If you've never read Das Kapital, if you've never read the raving rants of Karl Marx, it's okay. In a sentence, communism is a utopian ideology that utilizes the use of force to pitch classes against each other so that the oppressed working class will destroy and vanquish the capitalist class and the bourgeoisie middle class until, quote unquote, everyone is equal and no one has private property and everyone receives according to their needs. That's the idea. In reality, it has never, ever been achieved in the 40 countries it has been attempted in, and it has led to the deaths of over 100 million people, with more than 30 million murdered in China alone. Today's version of it isn't the communism of China or the Soviet Union. What we are seeing on the streets of America is something called the new left. Remember that phrase, the new left. I learned it from the incredible autobiography of Andrew Breitbart. Read it. It's called Righteous Indignation.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Hugh Hewitt Show.
I personally believe the media is attempting to overplay the second outbreak in an effort to hurt Donald Trump. The numbers bear me up. Remember, at the height of the pandemic in May, America suffered 2,700 deaths. Yesterday, there were 338 deaths. On Sunday, there were 250. On Friday, there were 506. On Thursday, there were 599. On Wednesday, there were 644. What do you see? The number of deaths are declining in the United States, even as the number of cases skyrocket. Why is that? Doctors are better equipped at treating it. Younger people are getting it. So the reopening has slowed down, but it hasn't stopped. And the variant that we have, there's a story on which variant we have, is the one that's gotten more contagious. So the virus is even more contagious than it was 3 months ago, but it's killing fewer people even as far more people get infected. Why? Because they're younger, stronger, less fragile, better treated.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dennis Prager.
China has fast-tracked the coronavirus.
And I welcome you back or to the male-female hour, second hour every Wednesday. I'm reflecting on the phenomenal, well, I won't even use a positive, the dramatic change in my trainer, late 20s, in her attitude toward work and motherhood. She was forced to be a full-time mom to her baby boy. And sure enough, that's what she would like to do. Full-time mom, if the finances allowed for it. We should do it an hour. It doesn't even have to be on the male-female hour, but it might be. The havoc played with women in the last 50 years because of feminist indoctrination. 90% of it simply wrong and harmful, made it a particularly unhappy group of people called young women. And you can see it with all the angry women on television, in protests. It's a product of being told the opposite of what your nature is. I would put no blocks against any woman's desire to be a full-time career person. But they never really have the opportunity to test it, do they? They take it as a given. You will be happier and more fulfilled with a full-time career than you would be taking care of a home. But there's really no test. That's like saying you'll be healthier if you take this brand of vitamin D than any other brand. But if you can't take any other brand, you have no test. Tests must always be against something else, or it's somewhat pointless. So for some women, the lockdown has actually made the test possible. Circumstances have forced them into experiencing that which they were told would stifle their growth as a person, namely full-time motherhood. All right, y'all. Let's go to some more of your calls. Sandra in Stillwater, Minnesota. Hi, Sandra.
Hi, Dennis.
Hi.
It's such an honor.
Thank you. How you doing without police?
So I'm just going to tell my little story.
Mm-hmm.
In the 1990s, I was a kindergarten teacher in a large and affluent public school system. And because of the way my particular program was run, I had children from all at-home moms. Okay? My children were angels. The other kindergarten programs that I knew about, because they were right next to me, were always needing the social working to come in. They were always talking about discipline. They were always talking about classroom management. But I had angel kids.
That is fascinating. What did you do in your own life?
I had gone to a very good school and thought I was going to be a career woman. And then when I started having children, I stayed home.
Do you feel it was a good choice?
Absolutely. My little joke about that is that the joke, no one on their deathbed ever said they wished they'd spent more time at the office.
Right?
I do, because my office was not only staying home with my kids, but later on homeschooling them. So I would do it over again in a heartbeat.
Thank you. See, I don't care as much about what decision a young woman makes as I care about the fact that she has not been given both sides of the argument. I mean, if you have a daughter who's, maybe I'll get married one day, maybe I'll have children, but career is where it's at. She should hear this. You have to admit the women who made this choice, not only college educated, but quite articulate. But they don't hear this. Their whole lives, the bombardment is in one direction. That's the tragedy. All righty, everybody. Let's take a dissenting view. I think it is Hastings, Minnesota. Vicky, hi.
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 I'm 66 years old. So I went into I was a mother. I had no college degree, no further education beyond high school. But I stayed home with all my kids. When I first graduated, I put my husband through college, and then I became pregnant while he was just 3 months shy or so of getting his degree. and it was in computers. So he was in the right field to afford, once he got a job, for me to stay home and be a stay-at-home mom. I had 3 boys, and they did well, and I stayed home with them until the youngest one was in kindergarten and had severe. I was lonely because at that time most women were getting jobs, and I never did. I stayed home with my kids, and I did everything. I read to them constantly. They insisted they should be in a preschool program. I didn't put them in one because they were reading and accounting and everything before they all passed the kindergarten test they had for them, and they did very well.
Well, I'm sorry about the lonely part, but it sounds like you did good for them. We'll be back.
The Dennis Prager Show, live from the Relief Factor Pain-Free Studio. Trending now on the Mike Gallagher Show.
No, I'll tell you what it is. It's utter, absolute wanky, cheese bollocks is what it is. Arrest me. Feel better now. Okay.
Yeah, I think we all feel a little better after listening to that. Rich Lowry writes a similar theme. Woke censorship is basically a superstitious cult, he says. We're living in a society right now gripped by a quasi-religious fervor, obsessed with symbols and irrational fears. Anything that's thought to have the slightest association with racism, no matter how attenuated the connection or how innocent the explanation, must be crushed, must be expunged. The mere presence of a possibly offending word is deemed a threat, whether it's truly offensive or any real people have actually taken offense. Ours is an enchanted world like that of the old Norse, who believed in land spirits who could bless or hinder travelers who didn't pay them heed. Our society isn't progressing, he writes, but falling back into a superstition that everyone must believe or pretend to believe for the supposed welfare of the community. A NASCAR garage pole is shaped like a noose, so everyone immediately assumes that a racist has snuck into Bubba Wallace's garage to send a nefarious signal to him. When the FBI says no, sometimes a garage pole is a garage pole, and this one's been there since October of 2019, people still insist it was a noose. Because the will to believe is so strong, and hey, better safe than sorry. The Dixie Chicks changes its name to the Chicks, even though there was nothing remotely wrong with the origin of the name. It wasn't referring to the folk song Dixie. It was referring to an album from the band Little Feat called Dixie Chicken.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
That people fixed New York. They fixed it.
That's right.
And it's back again. Massive increase in crime, massive increase in homicide. Then if you want to get geopolitical about it, I'm a child of the Cold War, as are you. We won this fight on November the 9th, 1989. Communism had a stake put it through its heart. Andrew, is it the fact that we had the wrong conceptualization of our foe, that it wasn't in fact a vampire, but it's a zombie and it's rising again, and now it's rising here in America?
There's that, and bad ideas never die. I mean, bad ideas do not ever die. And the reason for that is because bad ideas are keyed into our fallen human nature, whereas good ideas are elevated above that level, so that you have to strive for good ideas. It's a fight for government to remain limited and small. It is easy for government to expand and consume everything. It's a fight to say that people should be free. It's easy. It's typical for them to be enslaved to an overweening power. So it's really just falling into fallen human nature that does it. And what I find really depressing is not that the savages are out the gate. They're always at the gate. The barbarians are always at the gate, so that's not what bothers me. What bothers me is how empty and decadent our
Well, everybody, Dennis Prager here, the male-female hour every Wednesday, second hour. My trainer was changed by the 4-month lockdown. I'm going to talk about the continuing lockdown and more laws to stay at home next hour. But she changed 3 months, 4 months with her baby. She now wants to be a full-time mom if she and her husband can have the income to be able to do so. Lori in Minneapolis, city without police.
Hi, Dennis.
Hi.
Hi. Oh, it's so great to talk to you. I'm totally excited.
Thank you.
I live outside of Minneapolis. I've been a stay-at-home mom my entire, since my son was born, and I have 18-year-old twins. So everybody's in college. And there's been a lot of times where people are like, you stay at home, what do you do all day? And I'm like, a lot. I do a lot. It depends on what room I'm working. If we're at a dinner with my husband's coworkers and their wives are lawyers, doctors. Usually it depends on who is talking to me and if they're condescending or mean. Usually I say, you know what? I'm sometimes the one that picks up your kid that doesn't have a ride home because you're still working. And I know that's mean, but sometimes it shuts them down. However, I have made friends that are working moms, and they say, thank you for not shaming me that I am working. So,
well, that's what I said earlier, that, the general conception is that the career person looks down upon the full-time mom. I'm not saying it's true. I'm just saying it's the general conception. But there's also something I read that you just verified. There's also, wow, maybe she really did make the right choice by staying home.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, some of them are just really hard on themselves because they do miss out on a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But I do feel like I missed out on a lot too. But I've moved everywhere. So I used to live in Boston. So a different idea there. I lived in Kansas. Everybody stayed home, had lots of kids. Iowa. I grew up in Colorado Springs. My mom worked, and she did miss a lot. So I really am blessed, and that was kind of the choice we made. And so since I had 3 kids under the age of 2, that was, a good reason.
Well, bless you. Okay, Janet, Mary, Maria, Samantha, Teresa. I wish I could take them all of you. Just something to think about. There are terrific kids who come from homes where the mom has a career. I know some. I'm not theorizing. But I think the option should be offered and not just the indoctrination toward career. Stay tuned and thank you for listening.
This is Owen Strand for townhall.com. It was heartwarming to see many of the planet's toughest and best athletes telling their children on social media how much they love them. In short videos, fathers played games with their kids, bear hugged them, and told them jokes, all in a tribute to dads on Father's Day. In a society that does little to encourage fathers, the NBA's efforts did not go unnoticed. Families are the essential building block of society, and fathers are the essential building block of the family. A home led by a father, especially a father with a spiritual focus and strong character, places flourishing within reach. Gender-neutral children do not need gender-neutral parents. Boys and girls need fathers and mothers bound by lifelong commitment. This isn't a prejudicial belief. Downplaying fatherhood sets us all up for disaster. Social media support is great, but we need more. We need a society that celebrates, honors, and ennobles fathers. I'm Owen Strand.
Alliance Defending Freedom, fighting for those whose liberty is being violated.
If you could do one thing that changed you forever, would you? How about something extraordinary? A bucket list item packing years of memories into 10 exciting days. Chart a new path by joining Dr. Sebastian Gorka.
Set a clear new vision for yourself this year and join me on the Stand with Israel tour this December 2nd to 11th.
Along with special guest Mike Lindell.
God freed me from these and other addictions and started me on a path to a restored heart. Praise Jesus.
Discover over 40 iconic sites as you encounter the life-changing impact of a journey to the Holy Land. Surrounded by like-minded travelers, picture yourself stepping foot in key locations right out of history. Much more than a vacation, this journey guides you through one of the most politically and spiritually significant places in the world. Explore Jerusalem, Galilee, the Dead Sea region, and so much more. Along the way, Dr. Sebastian Gorka will broadcast live and on-site as you watch and participate.
Reserve your spot today for this incredible journey.
Call today to join Dr. Sebastian Gorka on this life-enriching Israel tour, December 2nd to 11th, 2020. Call 855-565-5519 or book online at standwithisraeltour.com.
Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
Well, my thing is, Larry, I understand where you're coming from, but I get very disappointed because sometimes it very much seems like you bash black people, and I don't understand that because if you look at the history of America, there's more white men that has done wrong to black men than black men have done wrong to white men.
Corey, do I bash white people?
I haven't heard it.
Really? I've never said anything at all negative about Hillary. Never said anything at all negative about Joe Biden. Never said anything at all negative about the Clintons. Never said anything at all negative about left-wing people on the Democratic side. Never said anything at all negative about Chuck Schumer. Nothing negative about Nancy Pelosi.
You're right. So,
Corey, the people I criticize who are black are lefties. You've never heard me criticize Candace Owens. You never heard me criticize Peter Kirsanow. You never heard me criticize Thomas Sowell, Walter Williams.
But the people that you are naming, in my opinion, they're not too friendly to black people either. Candace Owens is not accepted by most black people.
Well, not accepted and being friendly are two different things. As Corey, you haven't seen you haven't seen my movie Uncle Tom, but when you see it, you'll hear Candace Owens say,
"I'm definitely going to see it. I'm definitely going to see it."
I sure hope so because when you
tonight, I'm definitely going to look at it.
I appreciate it, Corey. And when you see it, pay attention to something that Candace Owens said about you're saying she's not accepted by black people. She says, "I'm an alarm clock. I'm not here to win a popularity contest. I'm here to say, wake up. You're losing. Wake up." And when your alarm clock goes off, you're angry at first, but eventually you get up and do what you have to do. That was her analogy. I thought it was brilliant. I get that a lot. Well, you're putting down black people. Well, I'm putting down certain black people. I'm putting down Al Sharpton. I'm putting down Jesse Jackson. Putting down Farrakhan.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
So first things first, what is communism? If you've never read Das Kapital, if you've never read the raving rants of Karl Marx, it's okay. In a sentence, communism is a utopian ideology that utilizes the use of force to pitch classes against each other so that the oppressed working class will destroy and vanquish the capitalist class and the bourgeoisie middle class until, quote unquote, everyone is equal and no one has private property and everyone receives according to their needs. That's the idea. In reality, it has never, ever been achieved in the 40 countries it has been attempted in, and it has led to the deaths of over 100 million people, with more than 30 million murdered in China alone. Today's version of it isn't the communism of China or the Soviet Union. What we are seeing on the streets of America is something called the new left. Remember that phrase, the new left. I learned it from the incredible autobiography of Andrew Breitbart. Read it. It's called Righteous Indignation.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Hugh Hewitt Show.
I personally believe the media is attempting to overplay the second outbreak. in an effort to hurt Donald Trump. The numbers bear me up. Remember, at the height of the pandemic in May, America suffered 2,700 deaths. Yesterday, there were 338 deaths. On Sunday, there were 250. On Friday, there were 506. On Thursday, there were 599. On Wednesday, there were 644. What do you see? The number of deaths are declining in the United States.
Hello, everybody. Dennis Prager here. There are calls throughout the country, or in many states, let's put it that way. Throughout the country, I guess that means every state. In some states throughout the country, for a resumption of the lockdown because of the various numbers. So let me read to you some numbers here. There were 100, and California in particular, the governor will announce more measures that I find it amazing that people will obey. But we have produced a herd-like mentality, and people are scared. I don't know why they're scared. The chances of you dying from this, unless you're very old and infirmed, not even very old counts. Very old with other infirmities, weakened immune system, the chances of your dying from this are minuscule. California yesterday, how many millions of people are in California? Sean, you want to look that up? Population of California, is it 30 or 40 million? 105 people are listed as dying yesterday from COVID-19, and that's a high, except for 37 million in 2010. Oh, so it's over 40. Okay. 121 on April 22 was the high. 105 on June 30th. So it's 16 away from the high, and just a few days earlier was just 31 on June 22nd, and 31, 32 on June 22nd, 31. Anyways, so there's an up and down factor. That the total deaths in the state of over 40 million is 6,081. Very, very, very few of them are young. Very, very few of them were healthy. And we are supposed to shatter the economy, ruin people's lives in the millions because of this. See, I have an image of leaders as being leaders. It doesn't take any guts to say, okay, safety first. The numbers are spiking. I love the vocabulary of the media. It's spiking. Listen, it spikes if it goes from 1 death to 3 deaths. That's a huge spike. 300% increase in whatever it might be. So, if you'd have been told in March that in July you will still be locked down, you would have said, no, that's not possible. But so there's no end. There's no end in sight. A governor should say to his or her state, folks, there are 2 issues here. deaths from COVID, not cases. Cases doesn't mean a thing. Correct? Spike in cases. People report that as if that's the determining factor. I mean, theoretically, what if everybody got it and 0.1% died? So what would that show? If there's a spike in cases because there's a spike in tests. The only way to know if people have COVID is to test them, unless they have very severe symptoms, which is very rare. So a governor should say, yes, I'm going to talk to you as if you're adults, not sheep. It's a free country. People die from illness. People die from viruses. The flu kills tens of thousands every year. Nobody talks about it. We cannot indefinitely go on with the shutting down of our society. We cannot do this. The price is too great. Yes, if we shut down, if everybody stayed in their homes for the next 6 months, we wouldn't have any deaths or very few deaths from COVID. That's true. So what does that prove? That therefore we should do it? What is the aim? No deaths? What is the aim? No cases? A flattening of the curve of cases? What does that mean, flattening the curve of the cases? It's a contagious disease. So the only way to flatten the curve, theoretically, is for nobody to go out of their house. But if that's the case, how do you explain Sweden? Let me give you the data right now on Sweden. One moment here. I have my trusty ways of doing this. I look up, let's see, corona deaths country. And then I look it up on this thing, Worldometer. There we go. Getting there. And deaths, let's see, what happened here? So they've changed the way they've done it. Anyway, the last I looked, Sweden had none for days. Sweden never locked down. What does that say? Is it less contagious in Sweden than in the United States? I don't know what it says. It's a fair question to ask. I don't know the answer. Yes. So this is what is going to happen here. This is an amazing reaction. No one is supposed to die from this, I guess. That's what they're saying. Or the death number has to go down. Keep going down. The deaths that are taking place, I just spoke to someone in Israel where they have a big lockdown just last night. She needs surgery on her knee. She's an older woman. She needs surgery on her knee, and she's afraid to go to the doctor. And I said, "You'll ruin your legs. You have to go to the doctor." Anyway, I convinced her, but that is so common. People are afraid to go to doctors, and they're getting hurt as a result. It is not a mature society, and this is worldwide. The havoc done to India. India was the biggest shock to me. It's a country that does not have the money to sustain its population. People will starve. Anyway, I've read this to you over the course of the months. I asked the second week, is the cure worse than the disease? I have been fairly consistent in this. You have to say to your people, yes, some will die. That is correct. That's what happens when you have a virus. You want to get angry? Be angry with China for unleashing this on the world. You know, though, that if you even say that the Wuhan virus, you are attacked as racist? Do you understand the limitations on speech that exist today, meaning that truth cannot be said? The 1969 virus was called the Hong Kong virus. They would never do that today. They'd give it some scientific name like the coronavirus or COVID-19 for 2019. We're supposed to lie in the name of racial sensitivity. If you're an Asian and you are offended by or a Chinese person and you're offended by that, there's something wrong with you. I mean, there is so little anti-Asian sentiment in this country, as if there's more admiration than anything else. We will be back in a moment. 1-8-PRAGER-776. Much to report.
Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
That number one, I believe in the Bible. I remember I toured campuses, so I talked to college kids, and I had one college kid come up to me and he said, Dr. Gillen, do you believe in the entire Bible? Like the whole thing? And I said, well, let me put it to you this way. There's nothing that I have read in the Bible that I cannot understand or explain, or that is somehow invalidated by anything else that I know, science or otherwise. And so, yeah, I guess the answer to your question is yes. I believe in the entire Bible.
Michael, there's some specifics I want to ask you. When people say, like you, that there's nothing in the Bible that they've read that contradicts science, people, of course, have tons of follow-up questions. When you say that, they go, wait a minute, what about the talking snake?
When I say that there is no fundamental disagreement between science and the Bible, I mean that. And this is what I mean by that. My wife and I have been married for like 28 years, okay? Do we have disagreements? Yes, okay? I like to unroll the paper towels this way. She likes to unroll them this way, okay? I don't mean to make light of a serious topic, but you get the idea. But when it comes to the fundamentals, Laurel and I are completely in sync. And that's the kind of relationship I'm talking about between the Bible and science. So when I say that there is a complete agreement between science and the Bible, this is what I'm talking about. When it comes to the fundamental issues, there is no light between them. There is no disagreement between them. Now, does that mean they have no disagreements? Of course not. They do. For example,
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Hugh Hewitt Show.
I spent yesterday talking to, I don't know if you did, but I did, senior White House and non-White House officials. The bottom line, the president was not briefed on this because his CIA briefer did not deem the intelligence verified, and not one agency outside of the government believed it was verified to the level to warrant presidential alert, and the intel people inside the White House shared that assessment. Now, I don't know what you've learned about it, and please tell us, but generally speaking, you know Mike Morrell, I know Mike Morrell, you know how the president's briefing works. Sometimes they read it. President Obama was a reader. Sometimes they get it personally. Vice President Cheney, President Bush, President Trump are listeners. If you're not briefed on it, it's not in the river going through your head. Have I accurately described the intel process?
Yes, you have, and certainly have a lot of personal familiarity with the presidential daily brief. When I was Secretary Rumsfeld's senior military assistant, I sat in every single morning while Secretary Rumsfeld was given the precise same brief that the president was receiving. That went on for over 2 years. As the Supreme Allied Commander of NATO, I had regular access to it. So I'm very familiar with the process. I think you've described it accurately. It does vary from president to president. People do absorb information in different ways. I will say this, Hugh, and I think you'd agree with this. The report, if true, is extremely shocking. And I think, I know, had I been Supreme Allied Commander of NATO and in charge of that mission in Afghanistan, and had seen that intelligence at whatever level, I would have sent that like a rocket.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Mike Gallagher Show.
No, I'll tell you what it is. It's utter, absolute wanky, cheese bollocks is what it is. Arrest me. Feel better now. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Dennis Prager here. If it sounds a bit muffled, it's because I've decided to be so careful that I'm even wearing a mask while broadcasting. Now, if you think I'm muffled now, I'm actually using a yarmulke, which is on my nose. I'm not going to do a genuine mask. See how that sounds. All right, we're doing now the genuine mask. Okay. All right, this is better. No, you can't. Of course, I can't see anything because my glasses are fogged. Of course, my glasses are outside the... Oh, I see. Down my nose. My God, do I look stupid. That is astonishing. All right, there we go. All right, just testing. Oh, I just broke it. Broke the mask thing. Oh, damn. I won't be able to go into a store today. Life's trials. All right, my friends. Dennis Prager here. I mean, it's July 1st, and they are going to resume the lockdown. I don't know what authority governors have. It's unbelievable to me. You may not go out of your house except for X, Y, or Z. The contempt for the American people, which I'm sorry to say, I guess about 50% of the cases is warranted. People think, oh, Gavin Newsom, an intellectual giant, a moral thinker of the first order, has told me I can't go to work. So, of course, I won't go to work. So, March, April, May, June, July now. What? People are dying. That's correct. People die. That's right. Amazing thing. I have lived long enough to see America truly devolve. Hong Kong flu killed 100,000 Americans, equivalent to 160,000 today, 1969. Everybody went to work. And young people were dying then. That was across the board, to the best of my knowledge. Not almost only. Was it the median age in was it New York? It was 80. Half were in nursing homes. And kids can't go to school. Yes. The weakening of the American, of the post-World War II till today. It's done a job. People don't want to sing the land, home of the free and the land of the brave anymore. Or a lot of people don't. A lot of people do. I do. Most of you listening do. Brazil leads in the number of deaths yesterday. 1,271, a population of 212 million. So we're told that it's a huge calamity in Brazil. I don't know what constitutes huge calamity. Also, a lot of these countries, like here is the list of the most deaths as of 2 days ago, that day. Okay, just that day. Brazil, number 1, U.S. number 2, then India, Mexico, Peru, UK, But there's a big jump after Mexico. On the other hand, the population in Peru is smaller. In most cases, it's because of the health system. I mean, India just doesn't have the health system. It's a very poor country. I mean, it's making a resurgence thanks to capitalism, but it's a poor country. So is Brazil. All right, and now are you ready? This is the one of the riskiest things I have ever said, which is not a comment on me. It's a comment on the times in which we live, where truth is only available if you go to conservative sources. It is not available on the left because it's not a left-wing value. So here you go. You ready? If within the first 5 days of not feeling well, a COVID-19 patient takes zinc, hydroxychloroquine, and azithromycin, the chances of their dying from COVID-19 or even being hospitalized are minuscule. Minuscule. And these governors have the audacity to believe the lie, all animated by hatred of Donald Trump. Because science has been utterly corrupted by the left. They've withdrawn these articles, and it was the New England Journal of Medicine and Lancet, two of the most prestigious journals, have withdrawn their hydroxychloroquine studies. They weren't even peer-reviewed, and they were published. Anything to crap on Trump. It is better for people to die than enable Trump to have been right. That is the belief on the left. It's very angering to me that any numbers are dying when so many lives could have been saved had they been given this regimen in the first 5 days. At worst, it doesn't do anything. People live on hydroxychloroquine for decades, like lupus patients and rheumatoid arthritis patients. So I look at the numbers of dead and I think, how many could have been avoided? I listened to Dr. Zelenko's interview with Mayor Giuliani on New York radio. And again, it's amazing. Giuliani's a conservative, and he has Zelenko on. Has the Zelenko been on anybody else? Don't the liberals and leftists want to save lives? Not if it validates something President Trump has said, then they don't want to save lives. You have a loved one, or you have coronavirus-like symptoms. You must take this in the first 5 days. Find a doctor who will prescribe it. There's no doubt in my mind that sooner than later, people will be held responsible for hiding the truth about hydroxychloroquine zinc combination from people who then died, because it's better that you die than validate something Donald Trump said. Such is the world that the left has created. The sciences have been corrupted because everything the left touches, it ruins. There's no exception to that. Since Vladimir Lenin, there has been no exception.
The Dennis Prager Show, live from the Relief Factor Pain-Free Studio. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
Who is Joe Biden today?
Oh, well, maybe we should ask Joe Biden that, because I don't even really think he knows. Finally, on the 89th day, they brought him out of the basement. They propped him up. I guess they gave him like smelling salts or something to awaken him. And he is back out there. Sadly, not looking any better for all the time off that he had. But it's actually very scary. The Joe Biden that we see today, Sebastian, is really just a shell of a person, and he is being manipulated at every turn by the very far left radical wing of the Democrat Socialist Marxist Party, which is, I mean, that's what they are now. They are not even the Democrat Party of, 30 years ago. They have morphed into this very frightening organization. And when you see what is happening out across this country in these Democrat-run cities and states, you see the chaos and the anarchy, burning down of buildings, looting, just complete, terrorism in many cases. You don't see Joe Biden out there saying, gosh, we shouldn't do that. The only person that is standing up for law and order in this country is Donald Trump. Then you look at the fact that this guy now has Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez as his climate change advisor, the Green New Deal. Let's not forget the $93 trillion price tag on that, millions of energy jobs lost overnight. What that would ultimately mean for this country is probably bankruptcy pretty quickly. That, along with the fact that this guy wants open borders, free health care for illegal immigrants, he's getting pushed further and further left. He doesn't know which way is up. And if he, God forbid, ever became president, it would not be Joe Biden running the country. It would be this very far left radical socialist wing of the Democrat Party, and it is absolutely frightening.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Hugh Hewitt Show.
Does the Attorney General group have a grip on how to approach big tech so that they act responsibly in the marketplace?
Yeah, and let me be fair and clear. There are many things that big tech, like all tech, can provide that are helpful to make our lives better, to make our lives easier. And big tech is tech is developing and going down that road, whether it's AI or Internet of Things or autonomous vehicles. And so the trick is to find a balance and to make sure that we hold them accountable, to make sure that they don't exploit personal private data from our citizens and our clients and monetize those in a way that's unconstitutional, that's illegal. But at the same time, not inhibit innovation. Big tech spawns a lot of other opportunities. Make sure that they're not acting in a way that is that stifles innovation either, and that the smaller technology companies aren't pushed out of the field. So those are all concerns that we have. You know that we're leading a giant investigation against Google, Ken Paxton in Texas, and I and others in Nebraska. Doug Peterson, and we're focused.
I think is Brnovich involved too? I think Brnovich is involved.
Brno's involved, yes. Mark Brnovich in Arizona, and many others. I don't want to start naming names because there's so many, but that is a big deal for us. We want to protect the data, the privacy, and the liberties of our citizens, and at the same time encourage technology to continue to help protect our citizens.
Yeah, it's kind of a tightrope. You want the companies to come to Utah, I assume, and they want to go there because it's a great state to live in. It's like, it's not Ohio, but it's got the same number of letters in it.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today.
And as we drown in anti-American rhetoric, it's a good time to reflect on why we should be so grateful to live in this wonderful country. That's what I do in this week's Prager University video, Why I Love America. See it at PragerU.com, where we teach what isn't taught. Isn't that amazing? It's now a rare thing to have a public statement of I love America. It's at PragerU.com, talking about this hysteria, the continuing hysteria, and despicable closing down of states again. Despicable because it ruins lives. I'm looking at flattenthefear.com. That's the website you should all go to, flattenthefear.com. Just get all this updated information from people in science. See the hysteria that's taking place. Called flattenthefear.com. Listen to this. The CDC recently revised its death rate estimate down to just 0.4%, 0.4% death rate. 1% of the counties in the country account for more than half of all COVID-19 deaths nationally. So why should the other 99% not be able to make a living, keep their restaurant open? 10% of the counties account for more than 90% of all deaths. Roughly 40% of the counties in this country haven't experienced a single coronavirus death. Why should they shut down? 42% of all coronavirus deaths have come in nursing homes. In many states, nursing homes and assisted living facilities account for far more than half of all the deaths. 81% in Minnesota. You're a strange state, Minnesota. I live in a strange state too, but I think it's stranger there. More than 80% of all COVID-19 deaths are among those over 65. Those aged under 55 account for just 7%. Under 55. Forget under 35. Under 55. 7% of all COVID-19 deaths. I wish they could have had the zinc hydroxychloroquine cocktail. If you're 34 years old or younger, your probability of dying from COVID-19 as of June 3rd, you want to know what it was? Christian, you'll be interested. You're under 35. I hope this doesn't scare you, but I want you to know your chances of dying from COVID-19 are you ready? 0.00005%. Without a yarmulke. With a yarmulke, it's down to 0.4 or 4. So what is that? Let's see. I don't even know what that is. I don't know how to read it properly. 1 decimal place is at 1/10 of a percent, 100th of a percent, 1,000th of a percent. Is it then 10,000th of a percent or a millionth of a percent? Probably. I do? Ami's waiting? I feel terrible. I'm not that bad.
Oh, my God.
I don't feel that bad.
Twiddling my thumbs.
You're twiddling your thumbs. I thought you'd be smoking a cigar.
I just finished my two daily cigarillos.
You are now smoking cigarillos?
Oh, I've been doing that for years and years.
I thought you smoked regular, strong.
I do.
Non-filtered.
They're just as manly. Come on.
They're not just as manly. I was going to say you are one of the most masculine men I know. You're like, yeah, you are. It's like Ami John Wayne Horowitz.
Oh, don't compare me to that racist John Wayne.
Oh yeah, no,
yes. Gets on an airport, they're gonna take it off.
Well, they're taking everybody down. They're taking Lincoln down, so it gives you an idea. So Ami, I'm glad you're on the line, and forgive me for I'm so angry about what's happening in California and the rest of the country. Anyway, I want to get your latest report. Were you attacked?
Yes, I was attacked at this new New York Occupy City Hall, which is modeled after both the CHOP and Occupy Wall Street, where a bunch of neo-Marxist radical hooligans have, again, taken over a sovereign part of our city and have essentially taken it for themselves. And as all these radical leftist utopias has devolved into a deranged group of crazies who are attacking people who don't agree with them, including yours truly.
All right, I need to hear your story. I'll be back with Ami Horowitz, whose videos, if they gave prizes for truth, that he would get the truth prize. And it is time for Relief Factor. Relief Factor is a non-medical, is that the way to put it? It's not a medicine. It's a supplement that relieves people of pain. A lot of people think it's a sort of a miraculous product. I'll tell you something this safe and get rid of your pain, I can't imagine why you wouldn't try it. So they have a way for you to try it and to know if it works. It doesn't work in 3 weeks. It probably won't work. You've lost $19.95 plus shipping. That's it. So all you have to do is go to relieffactor.com or call 800-500-8384.
If you could do one thing that changed you forever, would you? How about something extraordinary? A bucket list item packing years of memories into 10 exciting days. Chart a new path by joining Dr. Sebastian Gorka.
Set a clear new vision for yourself this year and join me on the Stand with Israel tour this December 2nd to 11th.
Along with special guest Mike Lindell.
God freed me from these and other addictions and started me on a path to a restored heart. Praise Jesus.
Discover over 40 iconic sites as you encounter the life-changing impact of a journey to the Holy Land. Surrounded by like-minded travelers, picture yourself stepping foot in key locations right out of history. Much more than a vacation, this journey guides you through one of the most politically and spiritually significant places in the world. Explore Jerusalem, Galilee, the Dead Sea region, and so much more. Along the way, Dr. Sebastian Gorka will broadcast live and on-site as you watch and participate.
Reserve your spot today for this incredible journey.
Call today to join Dr. Sebastian Gorka on this life-enriching Israel tour, December 2nd to 11th, 2020. Call 855-565-5519 or book online at standwithisraeltour.com.
Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
Well, my thing is, Larry, I understand where you're coming from, but I get very disappointed because sometimes it very much seems like you bash black people, and I don't understand that because if you look at the history of America, there's more white men that has done wrong to black men than black men have done wrong to white men.
Corey, do I bash white people?
I haven't heard it.
Really? I've never said anything at all negative about Hillary. Never said anything at all negative about Joe Biden. Never said anything at all negative about the Clintons. Never said anything at all negative about left-wing people on the Democratic side. Never said anything at all negative about Chuck Schumer. Nothing negative about Nancy Pelosi.
You're right. So,
Corey, the people I criticize who are black are lefties. You never heard me criticize Candace Owens. You never heard me criticize Peter Kirsanow. You never heard me criticize Thomas Sowell, Walter Williams.
But the people that you are naming, in my opinion, they're not too friendly to black people either. Candace Owens is not accepted by most black people.
Well, not accepted and being friendly are two different things. As Corey, you haven't seen you haven't seen my movie Uncle Tom, but when you see it, you'll hear Candace Owens say,
"I'm definitely going to see it. I'm definitely going to see it."
I sure hope so because when you
tonight, I'm definitely going to look at it.
I appreciate it, Corey. And when you see it, pay attention to something that Candace Owens said about you're saying she's not accepted by black people. She says, "I'm an alarm clock. I'm not here to win a popularity contest. I'm here to say, wake up."
Did you know that you can see visual highlights of my show every day on my YouTube channel? So sign up today, go to youtube.com, type in Dennis Prager channel, and click subscribe. Don't forget to click the bell icon so you'll be notified every time we put up a new clip. Hi, everybody. I just did a quick check during the break. I Googled, do real men smoke cigarillos? And amazingly, a picture of Ami Horowitz came up as a real man who smokes cigarillos. Did you know that, Ami?
I no doubt that is the case. No doubt whatsoever. By the way, my wife heard that to me. She yelled, "You smoke 2 of those a day?"
God, that is one of the classic moments in my radio history. You mean she's listening? Is that the problem?
Well, she's listening to my end of the
oh, yes, you're right. That's so true. I get it.
We're all
well,
stuck here
tell
together.
her that I'm on board with her. I criticized you for it as well. I thought you should.
Dennis criticized me as well.
I thought you should smoke 4 a day. You see, he didn't tell her that.
No, I didn't tell her.
I tell you, the power wives have over the most. I mean, the guy crossed a sea with Syrian refugees, but he won't tell his wife he's going to smoke 4 cigarillos.
You have encapsulated my life perfectly with that.
I think so. I think so. That is correct. By the way, one more thing on that. Sean wanted to know during the break, were you beaten up because of the cigarillo?
The truth is, had I been smoking while I was there, the beatdown would have been worse.
That's correct. That's right. Yes. All right. In all seriousness, what happened to you?
So I went to this Occupy City Hall that we have now popped up here in New York. And I was shooting one of my videos, and what happened was they kind of got wise to it relatively quickly, and they just started surrounding me. And the 2 people had bullhorns, and they were yelling at me, "Stop filming us! Stop filming us! F you, F you!" And about 15 people surrounded me and started verbally threatening me. And I was just kind of filming them with my camera. And they basically surrounded me. They grabbed me from behind. They grabbed my phone. They turned off the film. They threw it down. I got punched in the back. And then a couple of guys grabbed me and literally just grabbed me and threw me out of the encampment. So it wasn't that bad. I've been tuned up worse than that. But it again, what it really points to, it's not about me, right? It's about the larger issue. And the first point I want to make is the absolute, and I know we're beating a dead horse. You talk about it all the time. I talk about it all the time. The media malfeasance, and maybe that even understates it. The media lying about what is happening, not just here, but in Chaz, in CHOP, in Minneapolis, and all these places. They have these hagiographies, I think it's the right word, about what these people are about. The New Yorker had this glowing, huge piece of how they spent the night with these people in this Occupy zone. They're so wonderful and so nice and so lovely, when it's so obvious. You don't have to even dig or scratch the surface. You walk in there and you feel the hatred, the signage and the graffiti calling for killing of cops. I mean, it's everywhere there. And it's hard to say that they just look the other way or there's some kind of confirmation bias, because that's not even possible. It's seeping with violence and radicalism. I mean, they have this large sign which lists all their demands, and then a few times a day, a guy in a bullhorn will get up in the middle of the square, and he will go through all of their demands. And these demands literally would make, I mean, they're radicalism on steroids. They make Trotsky blush. They're calling for the decriminalization of, wait for it, everything. They want to decriminalize all the things, Dennis. Okay? They obviously want to defund the police to zero. They want to give back all land to indigenous peoples, which obviously means the end of America. That's what they're calling for. No borders, end of capitalism. And of course, no radical creed, Dennis, would be full without the free Palestine. They have to throw in the one Jewish state and to attack the one Jewish state.
Not only that, the one state.
The one state, correct.
Yeah, the only right. The one Jewish state is the only state they hate outside of the U.S. Right.
Which of course, to me, seeps of anti-Semitism. Right. If you're not going to criticize the other quote unquote bad actors of the world and folks in Israel, which is why I keep saying.
How about this? Would you rather be a Muslim in Israel or a Muslim in China?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty obvious answer. Almost a Muslim. I'd rather be a Muslim in Israel than any of the Arab world.
Yeah, that's right. That's actually that's a good point. You're right.
But these people are just they're so dangerous, and you have all of these mayors, whether it be Jenny Durkin in Seattle or Bill the Bolshevik here in Manhattan, who they don't just acquiesce these people, which of course they're doing by allowing these things to exist. In my view, they are quietly, or sometimes not so quietly, in solidarity with these people. They've normalized radicalism. They've made radicalism and extremism and neo-Marxism normative, and which also makes me wonder, how are we losing to these people? Dennis, how are we down in the polls to these radicals who are running everything now?
Because the media. This was a great lesson in my life I didn't know. I've told my listeners, I always thought that the media in totalitarian states brainwash, that media in a free country cannot brainwash. And I was wrong.
Oh, yeah. No, dead wrong. Dead wrong. You can't open up the New York Times or Washington Post or CNN
right.
and see the complicity, the alliance that they have with these people. And it's sickening because, like I said, these isn't just people who are calling for defunding the police or reallocating some money to poor communities, which of course I would be against in any case. These guys are the height of an agenda that wouldn't lead to destruction of the United States. They are calling openly in these places for the destruction of America. And
are we going to see a video of what's happening in New York?
Oh, you better believe it.
Okay, good. I'll have you on again, obviously. His videos are really important. They're at AmiHorowitz.com or go through DennisPrager.com. It's a battle for America unlike anything we've had since the Civil War of the 1860s. I don't know who will win. I only know I have to fight.
The Dennis Prager Show, live from the Relief Factor Pain-Free Studio.
This is Owen Strand for townhall.com. It was heartwarming to see many of the planet's toughest and best athletes telling their children on social media how much they love them. In short videos, fathers played games with their kids, bear hugged them, and told them jokes, all in a tribute to dads on Father's Day. In a society that does little to encourage fathers, the NBA's efforts did not go unnoticed. Families are the essential building block of society, and fathers are the essential building block of the family. A home led by a father, especially a father with a spiritual focus and strong character, places flourishing within reach. Gender-neutral children do not need gender-neutral parents. Boys and girls need fathers and mothers bound by lifelong commitment. This isn't a prejudicial belief. Downplaying fatherhood sets us all up for disaster. Social media support is great, but we need more. We need a society that celebrates, honors, and ennobles fathers. I'm Owen Strand.
Alliance Defending Freedom, fighting for those whose liberty is being violated.
If you could do one thing that changed you forever, would you? How about something extraordinary? A bucket list item packing years of memories into 10 exciting days. Chart a new path by joining Dr. Sebastian Gorka.
Set a clear new vision for yourself this year and join me on the Stand with Israel tour this December 2nd to 11th.
Along with special guest Mike Lindell.
God freed me from these and other addictions and started me on a path to a restored heart. Praise Jesus.
Discover over 40 iconic sites as you encounter the life-changing impact of a journey to the Holy Land. Surrounded by like-minded travelers, picture yourself stepping foot in key locations right out of history. Much more than a vacation, this journey guides you through one of the most politically and spiritually significant places in the world. Explore Jerusalem, Galilee, the Dead Sea region, and so much more. Along the way, Dr. Sebastian Gorka will broadcast live and on-site as you watch and participate.
Reserve your spot today for this incredible journey.
Call today to join Dr. Sebastian Gorka on this life-enriching Israel tour, December 2nd to 11th, 2020. Call 855-565-5519 or book online at standwithisraeltour.com.
Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
Well, my thing is, Larry, I understand where you're coming from, but I get very disappointed because sometimes it very much seems like you bash black people, and I don't understand that because if you look at the history of America, there's more white men that has done wrong to black men than black men have done wrong to white men.
Corey, do I bash white people?
I haven't heard it.
Really? I've never said anything at all negative about Hillary. Never said anything at all negative about Joe Biden. Never said anything at all negative about the Clintons. Never said anything at all negative about left-wing people on
Okay, everybody, the fight of our lives we are engaged in right now. It will come down in some ways to November. The question is, do you love America and liberty more than you hate Donald Trump? That will be the question for many people. Democrats do. I mean, they hide their candidate. I mean, this is unprecedented. And the less he says, the higher he is in the polls. The president is responsible for the coronavirus deaths in America. So is that true for France? Is Macron responsible where the death rate is higher than in the United States? Is he responsible for the deaths of France? Socialist, or at least man of the left? And all these other countries? I mean, Sweden never had a lockdown. They're really responsible. Is this going to happen every time there's a virus? End the world's economy? It's okay with the left because chaos is their friend. So they think. It tends to eat the revolutions tend to eat the revolutionaries. So the French Revolution versus the American Revolution. It is astonishing the allowance of people to destroy statues, property, police cars, stores. It's astonishing. That's a line that you never thought would be crossed in this country. We associate it with corrupt third world states. Yes. Let's see here. All right. Charles wants to know if there is serious lung damage after having the illness. There is apparently in some people. Donna, that's interesting. Donna, you have 30 seconds in Los Angeles. Tell me about your son's school.
The people at Rice University are being completely responsible and intellectual about their approach to opening school in the fall. We received a letter that said school's opening. They're going to be very careful about testing. They're going to let kids have roommates. They're going to let kids go to classrooms and learn. They're going to give kids the option to learn remotely, but they are encouraging people to come back.
This is Rice University?
In Houston.
Yeah, I know. Okay. That's nice to hear. Just remember, folks, the most elite university in the country was the first to close, Harvard. Thank you all. See you tomorrow.